Claire, and this topic is going to be using a 10-step approach to measure RASC performance. So we're going to have a real Olympic presentation.
Thank you, David. Well, despite the positive sound of the title, my purpose today is not to propose an answer. Rather, I would like to suggest a question, a thought, a reflection. Now, when I started to write this paper, I was sharing a concern that others in the society were feeling, and which was voiced by Professor Kennedy, who said, gee, maybe Raymond will give us a way of finding out how well we're doing. I'm sorry to disappoint Professor Kennedy, but on the other hand, I'd like to point out that the reasons I will be unable to do so today might be the reasons that make it unnecessary for me to try and wake us up, because I think we're already waking up as a society. Over this weekend, I have heard a lot of things, a lot of seeds that are starting to grow within the society. To quote things that have been said here today, maybe they're still hidden in the core. Maybe we'll have to wait for some convective event to make them visible to the rest of us. But maybe we will move out of what some of us perceive as an ice age. Now, I've been sitting at these paper sessions today, watching people come up here and destroy the elements of my paper. I said, well, there are still parts of it that I can use. And then I went to National Council, where I heard all these seeds starting to grow, and listening to the people making proposals as to what we can do to help the spread of interest in astronomy within our society, watching the other parts of my paper go to shreds. So the paper is going to be on purpose vague, and the reason I will make it vague is that I do not want to interfere with these actions that are going on, which are actual efforts, concrete efforts that are going in the right direction, which probably will yield positive results faster than anything that I could have proposed out of thin air today. The one disagreement is that you may have to bear with me as I go through this paper that now has more ink on it than there used to be original text. So I have arrows and sometimes I may get lost. I hope I won't. Now, for many years, emphasis has been put on the number of members that we have in a society as an indicator of the society's health and status. And that's good. I mean, for that purpose, if you want to know how well the society is doing, it may certainly be worth it to look at the number of members we have, how long do we keep a member, what's the turnaround, and so on. But the concept may have extended for a while to the point where many view trends in that number as the proper indicator of success of the RASC. That presupposes that our objective is to grow and gather members. Although that's not a bad objective, and it may certainly be a valid one in the set of objectives for our society, I asked myself if such is or should be the true underlying primary objective of the RASC. So I went back and looked at what I had on my bookshelves at home and found the December 1969 issue of the Journal of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, the very first one that I received as a member. I regret to report that it's still in its pristine shape. But nonetheless, it's still there. And I did remember reading at least the cover. There is important information on the cover, including the phrase, devoted to the advancement of astronomy and allied sciences. By the way, at the time, our president was Mr. Kennedy from Saskatoon. Peter Broughton was our librarian. Marie Fiddler was running 252 College Street. The annual dues were $10 and life membership was $150. Now, this phrase, devoted to the advancement of astronomy and allied science, has been on every cover of the journal until 1997. Where or why it's gone, I don't know. But I do know that it's not on the cover of our new journal. Now, I've taken that in my youthful innocence to be the objective not only of the journal, but to be the objective of the whole society. Now, some of you may know that lately there's been great importance given everywhere to performance measurements. And certainly like anyone in Ottawa, where I now am in the government, I've certainly participated in the great hopes of performance measurement systems. Well, they may be useful, it's just the way some people apply them. There are places where, due to its rapid implementation, the concept has led to a shift from the important to the easily measured. In many places where the main objective is not easy to quantify, there are many programs that have seen their orientation shift by the sudden interest in bean counting. Secondary objectives, even interesting side effects, because they can be easily measured, have become the driving forces or the deciding elements for such programs. And at the time I started writing this paper, I was afraid that this society was falling into the same trap of looking at the interesting side effect of having our membership increase overshadow what I saw as the main objective of trying to spread the interest, spread the word about the interest in astronomy. In '95, I tried to take the phrase devoted to the advancement of astronomy and allied sciences and turn it into 10 steps in the hope that each one would prove easier to attain than the whole. I'll just quickly go through them to remind you what they were there in the bulletin of December '95. First objective, the first step of the major objective is to take people who don't know astronomy and make them aware that astronomy exists. Second step, take people who are aware, make them interested. 3, take people who are interested, make them take up the hobby in some form. The fourth step would be to take these hobbyists and make them amateur astronomers, budding amateur astronomers at first. Step 5, take these budding astronomers and make them work in teams, help them become seasoned observers. 6, take these team members or seasoned observers, help them contribute to scientific projects. At 7, take these contributors, help them manage teams at their turn, or help them propose projects for others to learn how to become seasoned observers. 8, take these leaders and help them have an impact on astronomy itself. At step 9, you take these shapers and you help them reach the limit of astronomy. And at number 10, take those who are at the edge and help them explore beyond and hopefully take us with them. At first, I found this list useful to classify the instruments that the RASC has or could give itself to reach its objectives. For example, the journal's main contribution appears to cover steps 4 or 5 to steps 8 or 9, and sometimes at a stretch, maybe even 10. Sky News is a good example of a publication that achieves steps 2 to steps 5. With some uncertainty at either end. The Messier and NGC object certificates achieve specific sets of objectives that belong to step number 4. In the same manner, we could place most of our prizes, awards, publications, Astronomy Day, and so on at the appropriate step. one thing that I've learned during this weekend is that other people are doing a lot of work that looks like that kind of stuff, but they certainly started to actually do something useful with it way before me. Leo Enright, as the, how can I say, the making practical the beginner's observer's book, the BOG, the guide, has developed a 5-step scale to bring people to what I perceive to be step 2 or 3 to step 4 or 5. But Leo has structured the steps a lot more precisely than I have my own. I even heard Randy make a proposal of having 3 steps at about the same height in the scale to propose taking, I would say, junior members, but members who are less skillful and strong, and to bring them at a level where they have acquired a set of skills that is useful later on for the later steps. So these are all great efforts that have started, and not only have they started, but they're even practical, where I was still talking philosophically about these things. Now, that's not to say that we should then forget about the efforts that we all do for the good of the RASC itself, but what I was thinking is that we should also extend these instruments and our objectives outside of the RASC. The tools that we have so far in the RASC will prove very useful for the membership, but they have little direct impact outside of the membership. Maybe one of the roles, one of the future roles, one of the upcoming roles of the RASC should be to give us, the members, the tools to do these things better and help them have an impact outside of the society. Certainly knowledge in astronomy is a basic required tool, and the RASC does provide us with that. But what about the skills required to pass on this information to others? To make them interested, to share with them our love of the universe, our love of astronomy, and even our quest for knowledge. I'm not saying that this doesn't exist in the society. Thanks to many individuals, we have started to be taught how to affect others. I remember John Percy's exhortation to tell school boards about our interest as parents, as citizens, to keep proper science in the curriculum. That started at the time of where creationism was very popular. And when I was writing the paper, I was looking for examples, and that's when I was sitting here when Alberta showed us that how easy it was to do. Easy in the sense of it's not like reinventing the theory of relativity. It's a lot of work, but it's doable, and you can see that you achieve results with that. There was also an interesting article by Dave Chapman of Halifax in the '94 bulletin. The article was on the new and improved Simon Newcomb Award, but he had a few paragraphs there that had the seed for something that I would find very useful, telling each of us why we should write. And there he had the hints as to, our job is to make others interested in astronomy as members of the RASC. We certainly cannot forget the efforts of the Light Pollution Committee. Its members have given us many ways to increase our influence on municipal councils, on industries, and so on. So, although I claim that we need more of these efforts and that we need more concerted efforts at the level of the society to have these efforts organized, I must now admit that efforts are going on, and in fact, they are bearing fruits. And that's what I have observed this weekend. So I am happy to report that my paper was destroyed before I delivered it. But there's still a few things that, a few hints of what's going on that tell us that we still have to work at this. And during the annual meeting, There was the remark that was posed to us by Michael Watson as to, you know, if we are so successful, if we're doing so great, how come people don't show up when we have our annual family party? You know, we're 3,000 members, there's only a few of us here. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we have no idea to know if that number is good or bad. We also had discussions about should we lobby government in the manner in which grants are given. Now, I cannot prove what our influence should be, but I was asking myself, do we know what impact our intervention would have? If we are a society that's inward looking at satisfying our own membership and concentrating, as I hinted at the start of the paper, on the most important thing is increasing our membership, if that is so, we will be perceived by the outside world to talk on behalf of 3,000 people. When we write to a politician will look upon our letter as representing 3,000 votes. If we are a society that looks outwardsly, if we make our objective, if we target our objective at the entire population of Canada, we could ideally, I know this would take time, but ideally we could reach a point where when a politician receives a letter from us, he knows that we may represent the views of millions of people, even though we only have 3,000 members. And that's what I would like to propose, is that as a society, we have more and more efforts to try and spread our words, spread our interest to the outside world. Now, as individuals, we all do that. You all have had experiences like that when you're showing the universe to somebody else who's never seen it, someone's first look at the telescope. It makes you feel good to see how impressed they are. When I hear my neighbor, who even after many looks through the scope and many hours of talk, that he ends with something equivalent to saying, but you can't even tell what kind of cheese the moon is made of. But when I see that neighbor stand up at a school board meeting and insist to have better science training for his children, and even to the point where he proposes that it should be astronomy because anyone can look at the sky, you know, that makes me feel good. I've had an impact somewhere. Heck, it says so right here. Wow, strong feelings. I've even used someone's almost fanatical devotion to astrology as a way to get her interested in the sky. She now understands what planets are, she's also very interested in comets, and has passed along this interest to her son. Even though she still has an interest in astrology, well, you know, I couldn't do much about that, unfortunately. But at least I was able to use that as a way to convey a message to her son. And her concern that her son should understand astronomy better makes me feel good. And I propose to you that every time we achieve such a victory, we are attaining, in a great part, the objective of the RASC. I just don't want to wait until these persons join as members to have the right to feel good. Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond. That was a fascinating presentation. And the next step of our 10-step approach will be to have lunch.